Thursday, May 10th, 2018, Monaco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. I'm going to talk about how human freedom rests on gold redeemable money. And that's not me saying it. This was what Howard Buffett, a congressman from Nebraska, said in 1948 in an article printed by the Commercial and Financial Chronicle. And Howard Buffett also happened to be Warren Buffett's father, who is not a proponent of a gold standard, of course. And before I go further, I'd like to thank all the donations, all the people who donate on Patreon. I really appreciate it. Google or YouTube continues to censor quite a few of my videos. I am getting monetized still, but quite a lot less than I used to. So please, check out the description. You can donate $1 or $2 a month through Patreon, or you can make a one-off donation through PayPal and even cryptocurrencies. So, yes, this article, I'll put the link below in the description, was reprinted by FGMR.com, which is freegoldmoneyreport.com. It's a blog from goldmoney.com. So let's go through this. It's very important. Even in this day and age of cryptocurrencies, I think being able to redeem your money, in this case gold, physical gold and silver, is very important. And let's see what Warren Buffett's dad, Howard Buffett, said. Before I go further, though, let's have a look at Howard Buffett on Wikipedia. Howard Holman Buffett was an American businessman, investor, and politician. He was a four-term Republican United States representative for the state of Nebraska. He was the father of Warren Buffett, the famed American billionaire, businessman, and investor. So some interesting points about Howard Buffett. According to Warren Buffett biographer Roger Lowenstein, this is what he said about Howard Buffett. Unshakably ethical, Howard refused offers of junkets and even turned down a part of his pay. During his first term, when congressional salary was raised from $10,000 to $12,500, Howard left the extra money in the Capital Disbursement Office, insisting that he had been elected at the lower salary. His wife said he considered only one issue when deciding whether or not to vote for a bill. And I quote, "Will this add to or subtract from human liberty?" Kind of like a Ron Paul, I guess, of his day. And it goes on to say here, political philosophy. Howard Buffett is remembered for his highly libertarian old right stance, having maintained a friendship with Murray Rothbard for a number of years. Interesting, Murray Rothbard, from the Austrian School of Economics. I've done a review of his book, What Government Has Done to Our Money, several times. I'll put it below in the description as well. It's a classic. And it goes on to say he would invariably draw 0 ratings from the Americans for Democratic Action and other leftist groups. And it goes on to say Buffett was a critic of the Truman Doctrine and Marshall Plan. Of the Truman Doctrine, he said, "Our Christian ideals cannot be exported to other lands by dollars and guns." Buffett was also and I quote, "one of the major voices in Congress opposed to Korean adventure." So yeah, kind of like a libertarian Ron Paul of his day. So let's look at his essay, how he explains about human freedom, gold as redeemable money. So I'll read here a little bit and then I'll make some comments and I won't go through the whole article. It is 5 pages. I'll go through the points that I think are interesting. He says, and I quote, "Is there a connection between human freedom and a gold redeemable money? At first glance, it would seem that money belongs to the world of economics and human freedom to the political sphere. But when you recall that one of the first moves by Lenin, Mussolini, Hitler, and Hitler was to outlaw individual ownership of gold, you begin to sense that there may be some connection between money redeemable in gold and the rare prize known as human liberty. Goes on to say, in a free country, the monetary unit rests upon a fixed foundation of gold and silver independent of the ruling politicians. Our dollar was that kind of money before 1933. Under that system, paper currency is redeemable for a certain weight of gold at the free option and choice of the holder of paper money. It could be done nowadays. Many people say, oh, the world is too advanced now technologically. We don't need redeemable gold anymore. But it can be done, and easily. It just depends on you to push for it. He goes on to talk about redemption rights ensures stability. Why does it ensure stability? He says that redemption rights give money a larger degree of stability. The owner of such gold redeemable currency or silver has economic independence. He can move around either within or without his country because his money holdings have accepted value anywhere. Again, fiat money doesn't allow you to do that. Goes on to say here, you have heard a lot of oratory on inflation from politicians in both parties. Actually, that oratory and the inflation maneuvering around here are mostly slight efforts designed to lay the blame on the other party's doorstep. All our politicians regularly announce their intention to stop inflation. I believe I can show that until they move to restore your right to own gold, that talk is hogwash. That's right. Inflation is the loss of value in the paper currency. Paper systems end in collapse. And I quote, "But first let me clear away a bit of underbrush. I will not take time to review the history of paper money experience. So far as I can discover, paper money systems have always wound up with collapse and economic chaos. Why has it taken so long for this to happen in the U.S.? Well, because the U.S. Had a pretty long and sound history of money, and it's only really been gradually taken away. He talks about taxpayer, the forgotten man. Far away from Congress is the real forgotten man, the taxpayer who foots the bill. He's in a different spot from the tax eater or businesses that make millions from spending schemes. He cannot afford to spend his time trying to oppose federal expenditure. He has to earn his own living and carry the burden of taxes as well. Feels familiar, but for most beneficiaries, a federal paycheck soon becomes vital in his life. He usually will spend his full energies, if necessary, to hang on to his income." Goes on to say, for a long time, shrewd people have been quietly hoarding tangibles in one way or another. Eventually, this individual movement into tangibles will become a general stampede unless corrective action comes soon. Wow, they've been able to keep it going on and on and on. And I guess in the 70s, they had that problem, and early 80s, and they had to raise rates. That was the corrective action. Is time propitious? And I quote, "Most opponents of free coinage of gold admit that the restoration is essential, but claim the time is not propitious. Some argued there would be a scramble for gold and our enormous gold reserves would be exhausted." Actually, this argument simply points up the case. If there's so little confidence in our currency that restoration of gold coin would cause our gold stocks to disappear, then we must act promptly. The danger was recently highlighted by Mr. Alan Sproul, president of the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, who said, and I quote, "Without our support, the Federal Reserve System, under present conditions, almost any sale of government bonds undertaken for whatever purpose, laudable or otherwise, would be likely to find an almost bottomless market on the first day support was withdrawn." They were doing QE back after the war in 1946. He also says the paper money disease has been a pleasant habit for thus far and will not be dropped voluntarily any more than a dope user will without a struggle to give up narcotics. But in each case, the end of the road is not a desirable prospect. How does he conclude, his essay? He says, but unless you're willing to surrender your children and your country to galloping inflation, war, and slavery, then this cause demands your support. For if human liberty is to survive in America, and the world, I would say, because America has always been an example to the rest of the world, but not a good one presently. He goes on to say, we must win the battle to restore honest money. And he concludes by saying, there is no more important challenge facing us than this issue, the restoration of your freedom to secure gold and silver as well, of course. He doesn't mention silver, but he's talked about it in the beginning, in exchange for the fruits of your labors. So yeah, that's Howard Buffett. Sounds a lot like Ron Paul. I agree with him 100%. Everything else is a distraction. Human freedom rests on gold redeemable money. A really good read. I'll put the whole article below in the description. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like, give me a thumbs up, share it far and wide. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. You can also follow me on Steemit, DTube, and on Twitter. And I'll talk to you later. Goodbye.